All right, rhinos, you're on notice. You have nowhere to hide. We're going to be following you. We're going to be tracking you. We're going to chase you down. You are no longer Republicans in name only. And I'm talking to you, senators. Get in line. This is Blackjack Wade. We're going to get into this. I am not letting loose of the... We have them by the tail. We're not going to stop. We are not going to acquiesce. We're not going to play any more political games. It's over. We are getting in line. And for those of you that don't maybe know, I'm going to make this very short. When a Democrat is on the left of the aisle in the House or the Senate, and something is introduced by their party, a bill, any type of legislation, you know what they do? They get in line and they vote 100% in support of their party. And that's what's going to happen, rhinos. You're about to get a name change. I'll give it to you here in a few minutes. But you are going to get in line. We are not going to do this fake, we're working across the aisle. No. Crazy time's over. I said that in my last episode. Go back and listen to it. We're not doing crazy time anymore in politics or in culture. So you are going to get in line and you are going to vote for every appointee that Donald Trump has chosen in the last few days. In his, as Dan Bongino likes to say, rock'em sock'em robot style. That's great. He's doing it one after the other, after the other, after the other, so that the left doesn't have a time, specifically the media doesn't have time to react to it. That's not the point. The point is, it's his fucking team. He chose them, and you are going to support them because you are going to get in line. And I'm not going to listen to this rhetoric about, oh, let's ask the voting populace to go back at their senators and remind them of why they were. You wouldn't have a fucking job as a senator right now if you're in the red side of the aisle, on the right side of the aisle. You wouldn't have a job without Donald Trump. So it's his team. No one gets to do this in like sports. Let's say like a head coach gets hired to a team that in college football where there's a little bit of integrity left, and he gets to choose his offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. You don't get to fucking choose. You go with who was hired. Donald Trump overwhelmingly was chosen by over 5 million of the voting populace to be the president of the United States. And he has a goal, which we all voted for. It's not like it's a mystery. Oh, my God, what did he vote for? We know what he voted for, to get away from the crazy time. So you give him his team. And we have scorecards. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. We have scorecards. We that are paying attention get to say to you, no. You don't get to abandon. You don't get to go to the other side of the aisle. You don't get to give hugs. You get in line. Because the left has always done that. Think of this, people. In the Senate, in the House, I'll get to you House people in a minute. In the Senate, if you had a one vote majority and a bill was proposed, got to the floor of the Senate, you were obligated. If you were wearing a blue tie, blue suit, blue shirt, you were obligated to vote for that bill. And no one ever jumped the other direction. Hey, you never jumped to the right. They didn't. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, change parties, RFK, we can have that conversation. That took a long time for that to play out. But senators in the Republican Party on the right side of the aisle are on notice. You don't have a fucking choice. We're going to keep score to the degree you've never thought of. See, Washington has changed in the last 14 days. Donald Trump proved, not only by being elected again, but by the moves he's made in the last 10 days, he's proven that we can change this place. And you all are going to play, even you fucking rhinos think you're going to play by the old rules. And you're not. You're getting a new name. It's coming here shortly. But before I even get to that point, you are now, this is like your preseason. Like you're getting in shape. Like here we are at training camp, preseason games. I don't care if you use football, baseball, I don't care. I don't care what it is, because you're on notice. You are on notice. And I am not going to beg your constituents. We, the people, are not going to beg you. We're going to demand, because the populace vote, 5 million people. Here's what's interesting about your future, rhinos. Here's what's interesting about your future. You can't predict it anymore. Everyone thought it was going to be close. Maybe Kamala was going to win, blah, 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 blah. You had no idea that there was 5 million people. And you also don't know how many blue, left-leaning, registered Democrats voted for Donald Trump. So now you have to make a career decision, don't you? You have to decide whether you're going to try and play the Washington game, which has been completely upended. Make no mistake. The Washington game has been upended, uprooted, changed forever. Look at this cabinet. I'm going to get to the appointees later. Here's the point. Republican senators, red, right side of the aisle, get the fuck in line and vote for your party. Everybody he appoints, for cabinet or lower positions, it doesn't matter. It's not your choice anymore, because you're on notice. This is your next election. If you think that being a career politician is now still a thing, you have lost your fucking mind, because this has changed the game. He will change Washington, and therefore the people that support him or support the initiatives, the administration. I'm going to get to the eclecticness of this. Oh my gosh, this cabinet. Are you kidding me? This is the most wonderful assignments of people that are most capable, passionate, and empowered to do their job. Oh, I kind of gave you a preview on that one. But listen, you get in line. Senators, get in line. Every appointee, I want 100% of his appointees confirmed. Period. 53, 47 seats. You get in line, you just vote, and then you might be a part of this. Otherwise, you're going to get your turn. You're going to get your turn. I'm a big country music fan. Stapleton wrote that song. Does anyone know what that song's about? I'll tell you what that song's about. You're going to get your turn is about the guy that shot up from Mandalay Bay into that Jason Aldean concert and killed a bunch of people. And he wrote, "You're going to get your turn. Devil's going to watch you burn." That's the lyrics of the song. The point is, you're going to get your turn because you're not a career politician anymore. You realize that? You're not a career politician anymore unless you follow the leader who kept your job, maybe got your job, but certainly is the only chance you have at keeping your job. That's all you got, because you will get your turn. So this is your preseason, because this is just confirmations, people. Oh, and by the way, House of Representatives, did you think I forgot about you? I didn't forget about you. Same thing. Slim margin. Slim margin. Nancy Pelosi led the impeachment, multiple impeachments against Donald Trump with a very slim margin. You know why? Because everybody did what the leader said. It's not that hard to understand. So Donald Trump is picking the people most competent, most empowered, most passionate about all of those jobs. And you're going to vote them in, or you're going to get voted out, because we're keeping score. Here's your new nickname. We used to call you RINOs. Republican in name only. Now you're RINAPs. You're Republicans in name and practice. And you will fucking do it. Or you won't have a job. You'll have to go back into society, and you won't have your giant expense accounts, and you won't have your fancy cars and your suits riding around Washington, going to work 2 out of 5 days a week. You're not going to have that anymore. You're on notice, and you're going to get in fucking line. Because we, the people, everyone in it, the Washington crowd, I've never lived in Washington. I have not. But I know enough. I know enough about how life is there. And you live in a bubble. Inside the Beltway, everyone lives in a bubble thinking that this is how life is. It is not how life is. I've said this so many times in this podcast. The job was supposed to be elected by local constituents, statewide constituents, go to Washington, represent us, and then come back and go back to your regular job. Can you even imagine? Aren't you appalled? Aren't you appalled? You fucking RINOs that think that's your job now, to just ride around Washington, D.C. in cabs and limousines and Ubers and just do whatever the fuck you want. No, you are on call. You are going to do your job, or you won't have one. And if you haven't seen the writing on the wall from his appointments so far, you're retarded, because the reality is he's changing the rules. He's changing the entire governmental system. He's changing it to where there's accountability and obligation to the job that you've been given by, say it with me, we the people. We're done. We're done with the fake. We're done with all the jumping the aisle. I don't care. This is a very important point. So this is to the House of Representatives and the Senate. I don't care about your special interest groups. I don't care. And when I say I, it's not just me sitting here. Of course you know that. It's the It's the I that means we. We, the people, don't care about your special interest groups. We don't care about your lobbyist friends. We don't care about your lunch buddy on the left side of the aisle that you give hand jobs to over lunch. We don't care. You are going to vote for your party. 100%. I expect 100%. And if you don't, you're going to get your turn. Because none of it, the Senate's a third of the Senate every 2 years. Whatever, do the math. House of it doesn't matter, because you've been put on notice. And we're not putting up with this stuff anymore. We voted you in. You don't get to go to Washington and change your mind, or change your bank account, or change your morals. You don't get to do it anymore. We're fucking done with that. And Donald Trump proved that. You have to understand, to the American people, to the left-wing media that's still spiraling out of control, have no understanding at all of what happened. But the reality is, he won the popular vote by 5 million people. And just as a little sidebar, that was going to be the thing. They were expecting him to win the electoral again, or if he did, they weren't expecting him to win. They were expecting Kamala to win. But if he did win, they were going to point to the Electoral College as being flawed somehow if he had lost the popular vote while winning the electoral. Well, guess what? Won them both. And that's why there's no lawsuits. It's also why we're not calling him a Nazi or a fascist or Hitler anymore. Where'd that go? Anyone asking that question? Where the fuck did those sound bites go in 2 weeks? And now we almost have some arguments that are kind of sort of in his favor, even though they don't know. They're not smart enough to know. The left-wing media isn't smart enough to know. We'll get to that in a minute. Rhinos, you are now Rhinaps. Republican in name and practice. You will do it. You will get in line. You will cast your vote in support of all the confirmations. That's your preseason. That's your warm-up. You're getting ready because every bill, every submission to everything that happens that gets through the House, that lands in the Senate, that is in support of Donald Trump's policies that he ran on, and he's very clear. I can't wait to have... I don't fight with my friends, but my friends, I have some friends that are libbies. So what are they going to do when we sit down and go, they were so upset about him the first time around, now they're just beside themselves? And I'm going to look at him like, are you going to be upset when your investments increase? Are you going to be upset when inflation decreases? Are you going to be upset when illegal immigrants are taken back to their own home countries and you're safer? What part of this is, how do you complain? I don't get it. He's very clear, and he's 65 days at the point of this recording from even being inaugurated. He's already had a massive impact, in particular in foreign policy. And I'm not going to get off into that, but Hamas is already saying we need to have a peaceful resolution. When is the last time Hamas said we want to have a peaceful resolution? Or Qatar kicks Hamas out of their country and says we're no longer affiliated with them. How does this happen, guys? Well, it's very simple. Donald Trump's policies were sound, and they're sound with support now. All of these appointees, 100%, RINOs are now RINAPs because you're now Republican in name and practice. And there's going to be some, I don't know if Dino's the right word, the dog from Flintstones, but there's going to be some Democrats in name only. Maybe for a short time. I'm not going to get ahead of myself on that one. But there are going to be some lefties, left of the aisle, some Democrats, not radical leftists, but just Democrats that are going to jump to the other side. Because you never know what they're thinking. They're thinking, oh, man, that was a pretty effective campaign, and he won, and I kind of owe him a favor. From the last time I kind of screwed him over. I don't know what it is. You never know. We're trying to get into good favor. Maybe we don't owe a favor. Maybe we're trying to get into good favor. Or maybe they're just sane. What of that? There's a concept. Maybe they're just sane and they go, you know what? Matt Gaetz is a really good call for the AG. Mix things up. Or Tom Homan. What a great appointee for the border. A real czar. Not just a fake border czar in title, but a real czar. That's to me like, hey, you're here illegally, you go home. We're building the wall. You can come in. You're allowed to come in to this country. Always have been. Legally. Not hard to understand. It's not hard to understand. We have a wall. We have a perimeter. You can come in if this is the desired side. People can leave the U.S. By the way, Mexico's never argued about building a border to get Americans to stop going to Mexico. That's not happened because we're the place people want to live. We're the greatest country in the history of the world, and we will continue to be. And we welcome immigration. We welcome immigration legally. What the Biden administration did over the last 4 years is absurd. And if I have to explain this to you, I'm just going to leave it at that. Because I got to get to another point. Here's why I think many of the Democrats will come back to voting for, confirming, and we'll see how it goes when it comes to bills and administrative stuff. We don't know. Legislative stuff. I don't know how many left of the aisle will vote from I do look for the 100% that they always lined up for just because they hated Donald Trump. I do look for that to unwind. I don't think that will continue because it's not fruitful anymore for several reasons. A, it's proven not to be effective. If you just are voting against Donald Trump, then you've clearly failed overall over the last 15 years. He's won twice. You could argue we could get into the 2020 election. But there's no reason to be anti-Trump anymore. Here's why. No one's talking about this yet. You heard it here first. He's going to be out of office and ineligible to be the leader of the free world in 4 years. So just to be anti-Trump doesn't make any sense anymore because you can throw all your mud at him and you're not calling him a Nazi or Hitler anymore. But you can throw all the speculative, he's making bad decisions stuff at him, but that doesn't stick anymore because he's not going to be able to run for president again. This is his second term. So if you're on the left, you go, wait a minute. He won twice in separate, not even sequential inaugurations or administrations. He won twice, like as a first candidate, as like a new candidate. So why would you be anti-Trump anymore? It doesn't make any sense. You should adjust your thinking, because there'll be no Trump in 2028. But you're still trying to preserve your political livelihood, because that's what it is. You're still trying to prove to your constituents that I would think that you would come way back towards the middle, because the Democrat Party has no platform anymore. Think about it. Spend some time thinking about this, people. What happens if you're a Democrat and you lay your head down on the night of, or let's say November 6th, so it's already been called, and you go, what are we going to campaign on in 2028? It's very interesting to think about it, because if you don't have evil orange man, that threat to democracy, if that's not your platform, evil orange man, threat to democracy, what do you have? All of your fictional stuff has been blown up. You can't run on open borders. You can't run on being energy dependent. You can't run on let's support Ukraine. You just can't run. Those aren't platforms. You can't run on drag queen story hour. You can't run on boys can be girls, girls can be boys, men can get pregnant. You can't. What is your platform? What are you going to do? You're going to have to go. In my lifetime, I remember when there would be debates on television during election seasons, midterms, or presidential years. It didn't matter. There were valid arguments to be made. Obviously, I think that the Democrats always wanted to tax and spend, and Republicans were always about freedom and less government. Obviously, those are the things, but there were certain things you always came to grips with. What is the Democrats' platform right now? And I'm going to prove this to you in sort of an odd way that they don't know. They don't know what their own platform is. And here's why. I just said you can't run on anti-Trump, 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 evil orange man. You can't do it anymore, because in the 10 days since the election, MSNBC and CNN's viewership, whether you break it down by day or night, 30 to 40% is the overall average of their viewership has declined. Which is very, very, very strange if you believed that the majority of the country thought that Donald Trump was Hitler. Because they've lived their last 4 years, even while Biden was in office, they got their ratings from hating on Trump. They dipped a little bit after he was out of office, but certainly when he was in office from 16 to 20, they loved, the media, the left-wing media that is the propagandist for the Democrat Party, they loved the fact that he was in office. That's where their viewership came from. because people were just like, couldn't wait to tune in to hear more Trump hate. Trump derangement syndrome was off the charts. Well, then let me ask you a question. Then he gets reelected and their viewership drops? Shouldn't it increase? Shouldn't MSNBC and CNN, shouldn't their viewership go up? That would be what would make the most sense, because now all those with undernourished Trump derangement syndrome now are going to get fed. Well, what happened? I'm going to tell you what happened. Regardless of your socioeconomic status, regardless of your profession, regardless of what state you lived in, regardless of wherever you are as an American citizen, you realize they were lying to you. They lied to you the whole time. And you may now have a really clear understanding what gaslighting is. Gaslighting is lying often, lying confidently, and isolating people from the truth. Those are the three components to gaslighting, and that's what they were doing. Pollsters dead, and mainstream media being drugged down the drain with them. All the while, you had to recognize that your Trump derangement syndrome, you thought you were in the majority, and you were 5 million votes wrong. So I don't care what's going to happen here in the next few weeks. It's going to be weeks, right? We're 60 some days, so several weeks. Not quite 10, but close. The media is going to try to do everything they can with their limited viewership, as I just went through. No one watches anymore. Those that do are now skeptical. They're going to try to smear. They're going to try to smear every appointee that Donald Trump has made. And again, Ryan Epps, get in line. You are now Republicans in name and practice. Get in line and make the vote. It's not an option, or you're going to get your turn. But the smear campaigns are going to happen. They're going to try to trash Matt Gaetz. They're going to try to trash Tulsi Gabbard. They're going to try to trash RFK. They're going to try to trash Tom Homan. They're going to try everybody that's been appointed, that's going to be confirmed. Did you just hear me? They're going to be confirmed. And just to point out the humor in all this stuff, I have to say this. So let's think about I do watch mainstream media. I watch them. I hear what they're saying. I listen to what they're saying, and I can see directly through them. And we have to talk about this, though. So when Homan, when Gabbard, when Gaetz, RFK, all these appointees are made, all of a sudden your talking heads on MSNBC, CNBC, CNN, all your major networks, all of a sudden start making this face. Well, that's a terrible appointee. That person is so underqualified for this job. That person could never handle that position. They're so far from being able to handle that position. These are all the positions. That's what they do. So That's all the stuff that's happening. So let's play this out. It's so funny to think about it. So the left-wing media that's called Trump a Nazi, a fascist, Hitler, whatever, the dictator, all the things they're calling him. All of a sudden, the positions that he's appointing, they're concerned about. Well, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. So they hate him. They think he's a dictator. They think he's Hitler. And yet the positions are bad for the job. So let's play this out. So does that mean that now they're concerned about supporting his position as though he appointed the wrong person because they wouldn't be able to execute or be successful at doing the job he gave them to do? That's actually, you have to believe that. You have to believe that all of a sudden they're concerned. Well, we didn't agree with Donald Trump at all during the campaign, and we called him Hitler. But now that he's in position of authority, he's the president-elect. Now we have to say, well, if you're the president-elect and we know your policies, then you have to appoint the right person. No, they should be laughing. If they actually thought the appointees were the wrong people, they should be celebrating. They should be celebrating that this person is unqualified, that this person has no background, that has no resume that points to this. They should be celebrating instead of they lowbrow. Well, that is a terrible appointee. The point is, they know that he's appointed the right persons for those positions because they're scared out of their fucking minds. They are scared because the people he's chosen are capable, passionate, qualified, and they're going to do the job that he's given them. And the RINAPs are going to confirm it because we, the people, are going to demand that they do. So we're not going to say Tom Homan, Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Gaetz, RFK are the wrong people. We're going to say they're exactly the right people. And we're going to get probably, actually not probably, I'm going to go ahead and say it. And I didn't say it in this episode, but send this to one of your friends. I've obviously dropped the gloves in the last several episodes of this podcast. Let's get this out there. Blackjack Wade, host at blackjackwade.com. It's my own like promo. So watch the mainstream media. I'm going to wrap this up. Watch the mainstream media panic when they know that Donald Trump won by 5 million votes and by almost a historic number of electoral votes. He's obviously the people's favorite. He's obviously shattered the illusion that the left was in control of this country, both culturally and politically. They're not. Go back and listen to my last episode. We're in charge now. Crazy time's over. Period. We're taking back politics and culture at the same time. That's indisputable. It's all happening in real time. The reason the mainstream media is panicking about the appointees is they know they're the right people for the job. They are the right people to advance Donald Trump's agenda with no fear of smear campaigns, no fear of any of their past becoming exposed. They're not fearful of negative press from the New York Slimes, as Mark Levin calls it, or the New York Compost, as Mark Levin calls it. They're not afraid of that. They have the most open road to pursuing and fulfilling and being successful in their political careers, which were sponsored by, supported by, and produced by Donald Trump. So, Rynaps, you're only in Washington for one reason at this point. Because of Donald Trump. You're still there because of Donald Trump. So get in line and cast your fucking votes. And as the mainstream media trashes, tries to undermine, tell us these people aren't qualified, underqualified, no business being there, just know this. We're living right now, and I heard there was a deadline of July 4th of 2026 that Donald Trump gave to Vivek and Elon in their quest to the national, what was it called? The Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE. He gave him a deadline of not even 2 years, because that would be well before the midterms. But he said July of 2026, Independence Day. He wants the cuts in spending and the waste to be gone. And folks, that's going to make, if he can execute on that, and I believe he can. I don't say if in a quizzical, or I'm not doubting in any way that he can't pull it off. I do think he can. But if he does, we will be living in the most prosperous portion of time, period of time in the history of the United States, because of how things are moving so fast, and prosperity moves fast too. So let's remember this. We're living the most interesting time. We're going to see the most eclectic administration, all the jobs that are given to the most capable, empowered, passionate people about their jobs, with a trifecta: the presidency, the Senate, and the House, that are all going to fall in line. And we're going to see the most aggressive governing, maybe in the history of the United States of America. And we're going to get to see it happen. And you're going to get to feel it. It's not that we're just going to watch it happen in Washington. That's not what's going to happen. All the wrongs that have been done will be made right. And we, as the people who voted them in and will hold them accountable, will feel the positive result in the same amount of time that it took the Biden administration to tear it apart. Maybe sooner, but certainly in equal time. And we will get to live the way that America and Americans are supposed to live. God bless America. Blackjack Wade, over and out.